There's nothing quite like getting started on my morning commute and pursuing my next passions in life. I'm guessing my morning commute is just a little bit different than yours. They say that driving in Denver is probably more risky. As a geographer, ski mountaineer, and expedition leader, the views from my office might also be just a little bit different than yours. But no matter where our office is, no matter what we're doing, we all have one thing in common: N.O.D. No off days. No off days pertains to being the best you can be for your friends, for your family, and for your career. Speaking of no off days, it's about the journey. It's about reaching new heights. It's about getting comfortable outside your comfort zone. It's about setting and achieving goals that take patience and focus. It's about focusing in on all those goals and working as hard as you can. Speaking of family, I grew up literally right outside these theater walls from Beaver Creek over in Eaglevale. Speaking of no off days, I learned these values from my mom and dad. When I was an 8-year-old kid, my mom would bring my brothers and my sister and myself, all between the ages of 4 and 10, and we'd hike up and over the mountain from Eaglevale back here to Beaver Creek and visit my dad, who was building some of the first hotels here in Beaver Creek. Climbing and hiking over the mountain, yeah, that was simple, but driving would have been too easy, so that's what we did. Now, while my mom imparted me the values of physical activity, my dad imparted me the values of hard work, strong work ethic, and following through on plans and turning dreams into reality. Not long after that, as an 8-year-old kid, I was taken up onto the top of Mount of the Holy Cross, my first 14er. And from the top of that mountain, I could see hundreds of other mountains in all directions. And of course, at that age, we learn what the highest mountain in the world is. We learn that it's Everest. I have some fond memories of when my mom turned 60 a few years ago of climbing to the top of Mount of Holy Cross again. And I can remember trying to have to keep up with my mom. And it was really tough, actually. I had to really hustle. But going back to my days at Red Sandstone Elementary School as an 8-year-old kid in Vail, Colorado, I learned what that highest mountain in the world is, and I knew that someday I was going to climb that mountain. And that's where my relentless pursuit of Everest began, right here in Colorado. I climbed every single Colorado 14,000-foot peak, starting with when I got my learner's permit. I'd go out and climb the peaks all summer long, and by the time I turned 18, I had summited every single peak. Then there were sports. I had to do something to set myself apart from other players that were bigger, stronger, faster than this short white guy from the Vail Valley. Mountains did that for me. As my career progressed through the years, I learned how to acclimate myself for bigger challenges. The term bivouac means a long night of suffering. Now, why do we as humans subject ourselves to suffering? It's usually for some sort of gain. But we must realize that if we are pursuing our passions, that suffering is always going to be short-term. And crossing those crevasses will be easier and short-lived. But climbing your Everest is easier said than done. In 2012, I was there chasing my dreams to climb the highest mountain in the world. I was clipped into a rope only 800 feet from the summit, and a massive storm stopped me cold. I got blown off my feet, and fortunately I was clipped into a rope. I was stopped by crowds. I was stopped by people that needed help, and I turned around and thought my dream was crushed. I was very lucky to get back to base camp alive during the death storm, which took several lives that night. While I was back in base camp, I didn't know if I had the power and the strength to go back up. I was going to have to dig deeper than I thought was even possible. Now, what made this easier for me was that a good friend on my team came to me when I was pondering my decision. His name was Jangbu, and he said to me, "John, I've been to the summit 11 times, and I've never been turned away from an Everest summit before. Will you go back up with me?" I said, "Well, I got to kind of think about that. Actually, he's been up to the summit 11 times. That's probably a pretty good thing. It would be like if LeBron James asked you to play horse. Would you say no?" "Sure, I'll go back up." Now, that was an easy decision. Now, what I had to really think hard about, though, was how to respect the climbers that had died. And it's really a difficult thing, but that's also the reality of climbing Everest, and you still have to maintain the focus and the no-off days mentality to be able to pay tribute to the fallen climbers, but also to be able to face your fears and go back up. And so the mountain gave me another chance. I slowly made my ascent with Jangbu, And we met some of our other teammates in Camp 2, and we made our way up the summit ridges, and we made it to the summit. And it was amazing. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, what's it like to stand on the summit of Everest? I say it's excruciatingly exhilarating. Imagine winning the $100 million Powerball jackpot, but having somebody at the same time grab your lower lip, pull it over your head, and kick you in the stomach or the groin. It's excruciatingly exhilarating, and it really is. And that journey's incredible, and I stood up on the summit for a short time. You know, next time you're in an airplane, look out the window. That's what it's like to be on the summit of Everest. And time passed, and I made it home safely. You know, and one thing is certain, climbing to the top is never going to be easy. But a lot of friends and family congratulated me, but also people came out and said, well, you summited Everest. What else is there? I guess your career is over. Congratulations. My career being over, Everest being the pinnacle of my career, I chose to not believe those things. Instead, I sort of fell back on my core values and thought about the N.O.D, the no off days, and refocused my attention on setting big goals, again, in line with what I'm passionate about, but searching for new Everest, finding ways to raise the bar, hanging those goals up. Because if I hang my goals up, I get sick and tired of looking at those goals, and I'll work towards achieving those goals if I have to look at them all the time. And a great example was last year when I climbed and skied the 58 highest Colorado 14ers in the same season. I had a lot of great friends and mentors that showed up and helped me accomplish that goal. I'll never look at the Maroon Bells the same way ever again after climbing and skiing the north face of the Maroon Bells. And in the same way, it's about settling in and enjoying the process and the journey on the Maroon Bells in terms of being on the summit and making it to the top of whatever goal you're pushing for. Sometimes creative landscaping was required. On Mount Wilson near Telluride, I had to put a little rock next to my tent to remind me in the middle of the night when I had to go to the bathroom to don't go there. And then also seeing these same exact peaks in a different way, going out and to try to pursue and conquer and ski them all, the 3 peaks in a 12-hour period, Wilson Peak, El Diente, and Mount Wilson had to be climbed up with efficiency before it got too warm and skied down before the sun made the slopes too hot to safely make it down on those peaks. But in terms of finding new Everest, it's about setting big goals. Look at my year, and especially at the beginning of the year now, and I say, I'm going to set a big goal this year, and I'm going to go for it. You know, and everybody can do it. Set that big goal and go for it. There's nothing holding you back. Face those crevasse crossings head on with everything that you choose to do. Realize that it's about the journey. That summit is so small, and it's such a small amount of time on a long expedition. It's really about the process of getting there, and of course the process of getting back down, which I usually love to ski down these things. And also realize that failure is okay. You're going to learn from that failure. I've failed so many times on mountains. I've turned around so many times, more than I can count. And also, the process is really what it's all about, and the world's highest Tebow at the time, which was kind of fun. And then, of course, all these projects that I put together was about getting to that new next Everest. Last year, I went and set a big goal to go back to Mount Everest and climb it without supplemental oxygen. Now, of course, the Everest earthquake thwarted my attempt, but someday I'll go back to try to reach my new Everest in those ways. And I do understand that it's a process and an opportunity, and that there are truly no shortcuts towards a worthwhile dream when it comes to pursuing your new Everests. And so I look at all these projects, whether it's skiing the Cascade Volcanoes, skiing here in Colorado, traveling to Pakistan, going back to Everest. There's all these new goals and these new dreams. But why? Well, no off days is what drives me. How am I ever going to know what my true potential is if I don't raise the bar? Remember, staying the same is the first step towards getting worse. Anything is possible. It's a revolution. No off days, people. Thank you.